So we are live. Namaste, Vesna. Assalamu
Namaskar.
alaikum, Sat Sri Akal, and greetings from all of us at the experience.
Greetings to everyone as well. Pozdrav svima.
Right. So I always say there are no strangers here, only friends we have never met. And you're a friend I have never met till date, but we've been interacting for long. I know about the work that you do, which is in a similar space like mine, which is all about self-help and personal development. And it's a pleasure to have you on the experience, inspiring, cool conversations with best-selling authors.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. You're very welcome. So, as we celebrate authors every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. And before I tell you a little more about the author experience, I want to welcome everybody in the audience who joined us today on Facebook Live to learn and gain insights from Vesna Jacob. And thank you for joining in. My name is Jerry Almeida, and I'm your host for the evening. And Vesna is our esteemed guest of honor and all the best-selling author who's going to share her life story and insights from a book with all of you. So thank you for joining in. So Vesna, as you know, I am a writer myself. I write books, true stories of real heroes, not movie heroes or sports heroes, but real heroes who are making a difference in our world and changing our world by championing change every day. And I think that reading is one of the best, is not one of the best, but the best gift that you can actually gift to your friends, to your children, the habit of reading. Because through the medium of reading, you can actually visit several places in the world right from your study or right from your living room just by reading a book and gain so much from the time and effort invested by an author in researching the subject, researching the content. And that's why we have the author experience conversations every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. And we celebrate three genres of books which are all about self-help, personal development, personal discovery, personal transformation, books that are autobiographies or biographies of inspiring leaders or real heroes, books like the books that I write. And the third genre is about socio-political issues, socio-political concerns, righting wrongs, exposés, and books written by authors about real social ills plaguing our country, plaguing our society, and plaguing our world. And we are very happy to have you today to discuss your book. So to begin with, Vesna, I want to request you to share your story, your life story, and your journey of life right from childhood to now, to what you're doing now, and what is the vision, what is the plan going forward. So over to you, Vesna. Take 7, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, and just flow with your story so that the audience can know you better and know more about you and the work that you do. So over to you, Vesna.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, my passion for reading actually has started very, very early on when I was a child. And I remember that I've been kind of reading whatever would come my way. And back then, you didn't have laptops, you didn't have computers. I mean, the computers were just in its inception. So you would have to go to library, check in the book, find some interesting title, read it. And I would kind of go through books a week. And my parents, they have been quite concerned about me. They were really afraid that I would damage my eyes. So they would kind of take the light bulb out of my room. And I remember as a child that I would cover myself with a blanket, and I would have the torch, right? And I would read the books under the torch. I mean, like that was better for my eyesight. I don't think it was. But nevertheless, I grew up in Yugoslavia, what was known back then as Yugoslavia. Then my life, I was valedictorian in my school, and I was very passionate about sports. And I started young with athletics first. Then I got kind of bored with running, and soon I fell head over heels with basketball, because running was a part of it, but that wasn't the goal, because athletics is the queen of all sports. So I guess if you have a background in athletics, you can kind of make conversion and transfer into any other parts. So I fell madly head over heels with the basketball, and my parents were like, you know what, we are going to indulge it for as long as your grades do not suffer. So I was I had all straight A's in my school. At the same time, I was going for a musical practice. I learned to play accordion, and I was a part of a literary section because I was always fascinated with the language, with the uh, written word. And then all of that was so I could be left alone and play basketball. So it was kind of I had a sort of a round interest. And I'm coming from the town Tuzla in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which has been known for a female basketball in particular. We were European champions. So it was a very high level of basketball. I could see my life panning out that I would play for that team. I would be in the first team in the senior. And as I was 14 or 15, the war in my country started. So all of a sudden, the life as I knew it and the life I thought I would have kind of ceased to exist. And then overnight, all the rules of a normal life they changed. So all of a sudden, the country as I thought I had was not my country anymore. All of a sudden, I had a new country, and 4 years of that war kind of changed everything. Now, in the meantime, I had my anchor, I had a basketball. So I tried to pursue that as the dream. So to kind of that was still something that held me together within that those abnormal times. So surviving the war, although lost lots of family members, lots of friends, um, my perspective and the way I looked at the life completely changed because nothing was certain. I went to Germany to play basketball. And then 7 days prior to my first professional contract, I had a debilitating injury. Then I had my first surgery botched up. After the second surgery, I was told not only I will never be able to play again, but I was told I would never be able to walk again without a limp. So that came as a huge shock because it was like I had the first like 10 years of my life living a very cushioned life, a very privileged life, being able to play sports, to go to music school, to get a good education, to travel. Then all of a sudden, I was living through the war, through the worst nightmare where people are turned into a very docile, into a very bloodthirsty people, and the world I knew kind of ceased to exist. So all of a sudden, we were hungry, we were starving, we had no electricity. You could have died every day. People you knew one day or see them one day, next day were no more. And basketball was something that kept me together, kept my kind of anchor. And then all of a sudden I went into a new world, finally about to achieve my destiny, and then that was taken away. So that left me really in a emotional roller coaster, and I had a lot of questioning, a lot of rage, a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, and lots of questioning, what is my purpose here, why God has picked up on me this with such a vengeance, like didn't I suffer enough for one lifetime? And that is what kind of sparked my spirituality, because I found in all of that, I found or I heard God's voice, that my body could heal, that I could get better, that I could rebuild my life, and I just needed to know how and to learn how. And that is what got me onto completely different path of learning more about body, learning more about the physicality of recovery, of studying, going back to school, and kind of finding my way how to recover. And then I got back to Bosnia, started working for the US Army as a part of a peacekeeping mission. And So I learned self-defense technique by a chance through that line of a work. And through that line of a work, by a chance, I discovered Pilates. And I actually started putting lots of things together. So through another strange twist, strange turns of events, just as I was like, okay, this is what I could do for real. This is what I could do like outside my real job. I met Anurag, my husband from India. And after 6 months of courting and dating, and we met online before Facebook existed. So it was a really long time. That is when he proposed. I came to India for the first time. And when I came to India first time, I was like, I had inner voice telling me this is where I was meant to be. This is where I had something to do or something to learn. And by that time, I learned to trust my inner guidance and inner voice. And Anurag during that trip proposed, and I said, wow, I'm in love anyways, and this is where I was meant to be. And my, what I call it, my fourth life started. So I firmly believe that in this lifetime, I actually lived four very distinguished lives. And this is my fourth one. And this is when a lot of things kind of came together and made the full circle. So I really believe that I came to India with a purpose, and the purpose was to sort of trust that instinct more, to trust that spiritual guidance more, to understand that everything is interconnected. So today, when I look back, had my life didn't pan exactly the way it did, and had I not gone through everything the way I did, and had I not had a surgery, an injury the way I did, I definitely would have not been the person I am. I would have not been grounded in my spiritual world and in divine more than anything externally. I definitely would not be in this line of work, and I would not definitely be right now here speaking to you about my books. So I guess everything happened for a reason. And here we are, second year of pandemics, using online as never did before, and yet at the same time realizing how important it is a grounding, how important it is spirituality, how important it is to be connected on a deeper level, in spite of everything that might be happening around us.
Very nice, Vesta. And you've seen life very closely, and like you said, it's your fourth life now. And you
Yes.
experienced a war, and Yugoslavia has gone through some very rough and sad times during the war, during the conflict. So how would you compare those times that you witnessed during the war in Yugoslavia with what is happening currently with the isolation and the lockdown during the pandemic? Is it similar, or is there a difference?
Well, it is similar and yet it's very different. It is similar that the life as we knew it is no longer there.
Right.
So, so this sort of anxiety, this sort of fear of people, this sort of it's in a way it's very similar because you do not know what tomorrow may bring. The anxiety is higher now. Uh, the consequences of pandemics, we will only know in that post-traumatic stress, we will only know once we are no longer in pandemic. So we are still in it. The stress level is still very high. So from that perspective, it's very similar. Now, the part that is, and the trauma that you're losing somebody near and dear to you without any reason or without any distinguish, it's usually we say if the death comes in the natural order, we have no problem. The eldest to die the first, and then it goes. However, when the death does not choose, and when it starts going and jumping the generations, that is when it kind of hits us. By the time, if it goes in the natural order, that's the natural order. The moment you're born, soon after you realize that there is the day you will die. So, and in India, the death is taken in a way much better because of reincarnation, because of the the cycle, because I mean the tradition teaches you that this is not the end of the things necessarily, right? Regardless to what religion denomination you may belong to. India as a subcontinent has this tradition of kind of resilience or carrying on, or it's not the end. So from that perspective is the same. Now what is very different is that um, my bar for what how bad is very low, because at some point in Bosnia, when we were during the war, soon after 6 months, 8 months, we've lost everything. So not only you ran out of the stuff that you have at home, but you couldn't buy it. And when it became available, it was way too expensive. So you were dependent on somebody's help, which was international help, which may reach you, may not reach you. So I I lived through a hunger. I lived through all the sudden not having electricity, not having running water, not having heating system. So you had to find the tree, chop the tree, put it together, bring it home, make a fire, and then try to cook whatever you may have. So, and then in all of that, when I was able to get to Germany, which was a normal world, I was like, oh my God, people have electricity throughout the day. Oh my God, people have food. Oh my God. That came as a real shock, because I came from literally nothing. I had the memory and I lived, as I said, very privileged life of having everything. And then I experienced nothing and learned to live with that. And then I went again. But communication was not there. Internet was not there. We would have to use a satellite, a phone, which was like exorbitantly expensive to get in touch, and then you could pay for like a 1 minute of conversation.
Right.
Or you would have to communicate with people through the radio waves, like old style. So I think the huge blessing of this pandemic since internet, that I who haven't been home, and I know I'm not the only one, so many people, that we can still communicate every single day through internet. And I think that is the biggest blessing, that in spite of everything that we are going through, we are still connected. We are still able to at least be aware and know what's happening with each other. Even if it's bad, when you know it's bad, at least you know. Trust me, knowing is always much better than not knowing and having no idea what is happening with somebody. And then you can reach, and people are reaching out, and people have connected. And even if I'm sitting here, I can organize people somewhere else for someone else. So I think that is a huge blessing of this whole thing, to make it better, that we can act much more as a community on a global level than we could have back then in 90s in my part of the world, when we were completely cut out of the rest of the world.
Right. And how old were you when the war broke out in Yugoslavia? I mean, that region has had a lot of conflict for a long time. Yugoslavia, Bosnia, Serbia, etc. How old were you then?
I was 15. So
15.
what has happened is, yes, the war itself was for 4 years. The
Right.
war itself. Now, pre-war tension started some years before. However, people are still licking their wounds
Absolutely.
and are
Absolutely.
trying to bounce back. In
That's the
spite there is no
aftermath of any war. Yes.
aftermath of any war, is something that unless you go through it, you cannot fathom how far reaching consequences are. Because I mean, 25 years later, we should not be talking about it over there, and they should not be, everything should have been back to normal, and yet
It's
it's
not.
not. It's not.
So, you've seen war very closely, and, many world leaders, especially the United States leaders, because war is the industry over there. I mean, it's all about keeping the weapons in circulation and ensuring that there are weapon deals and transactions for selling weaponry. And the United States of America has a huge stake in selling weaponry to the world. But there are many quotes which go around that, if you want peace, prepare for war. Everything is fair in love and war. and a lot of nonsensical thoughts and quotes like that are peddled by world leaders. Now you have seen life closely during a war at a very young age. You were just 15, you were a child. What are your insights that you would like to share with all of us and the audience? uh,
Well, there are few. Honestly, in my mind, nothing justifies the war. I know that
Absolutely.
people get all patriotic and get all excited about the various things, various topics. It's very easy to rile people up.
Right,
Okay, so it's
absolutely.
very
I'm
easy
I'm
to.
happy you said that. You will see the moment we have some troops moving around Pakistan, you will see that a lot of people in India also cry for blood. Even a cricket match is seen as a war. And I've never understood how why people can't have the simple insight that you cannot be safe when your neighbors are not safe. So it's time to actually build friendship with the neighbors rather than going to war with them. But yes, it's
I
jingoism at work, which is
see
disguised
there
as
is a.
patriotism.
I mean, I've seen that. I've seen that in my country. I mean, we went from loving each other to realizing that we actually never loved each other, even though we did love each other. Okay, to hating each other, to we have to live together with each other, to blaming each other. Yeah, I mean that is a never-ending thing. The thing is that unless everybody around me is well, I cannot be well either. So
True,
that is one.
true.
If we put our seeming differences aside, we actually discovered that we all are alike. Ultimately, we are all people. And somehow, I think people who are more alike tend to hate each other with more passion. you know
Right.
so it has been true everywhere. So in my mind, nothing ever justifies conflict. Nothing ever justifies conflict. So that way, I'm very pro non-violent movement,
Very
because
nice.
any conflict will, any blood spilled in only going to crave for more blood. And that is what you're seeing also between India and Pakistan in a way. Now if now this is a little more towards an, this is a violent resolution in my mind, but if there is a war, then there better be a winner.
Right.
Because I'm finding that wherever you have a status quo situation, that is what actually feeds into much more issues than. So I am completely against any, because the conflict that I lived through, I never wanted, I never needed, I never asked for. I was put in the middle of it. It changed my life. It ended lives of so many people. And when we got out of it, none of us were better for it. None of us were better for it. So, but the problem is, if you already have a conflict, then you better have a winner. Then at least then whoever has lost need to put a tail. There are rules by the winner. If you have a status quo, and I think that is India and Pakistan's problem in a way as well, because there has always been a status quo in a situation that has not been resolved. Now, I really do not want to see our two countries, I mean, India and Pakistan, going through the war or anything similar. Neither I like seeing people going, oh, we have to show them and this and that, because trust me, we are same people ultimately. We are same people, and conflicts never sort anything out. They bring they bring much more devastation and hurt than good in any scenario.
Right. And absolutely. And that reminds me of uh, what you spoke about the status quo, because the whole idea is that in a war there are frankly no winners. Ask any dead soldiers about that, because where are the winners? But that said, you've seen life closely. You had to leave your country and go to Germany. So what are some of the life lessons that you learned during the war? Because during that time there was no internet per se. You didn't even have electricity, and yet during the pandemic, you see several people complaining, grumbling, whimpering, whining that, oh, this has gone on for too long, while they have all the luxuries and comforts in their home. And they should actually be grateful that they're getting some time to spend with the family. Yes, the pandemic has gone on for too long, but if you compare the two situations that you just kind of spoke about, what are some of the life lessons that you learned from there, and how can we apply those life lessons in the current times?
Well, see, everything depends on perspective.
Absolutely.
Even when you were talking about the war, I had the opportunity to see war very close from inside. And all of this happened by a chance. Then I had a situation that I was able to observe the war from the outside because I was outside, and to see how that whole conflict looked a little different. Then I had the opportunity to observe that conflict or a post-conflict from a third completely different perspective, because I worked for US Army for a peacekeeping mission, and I worked with different people from the different sides of the war.
Right.
So every truth depends on the perspective. So when we say that there is one truth, well, I think truth is can vary depending on perspective from which you're looking at it. So this understanding gives you the possibility to open yourself up to actually look at things from a different points of view. And I feel that that is usually what is required in a conflict resolution of any sorts, being it a fight, being it something much larger, to be able to see things from different perspective and point of view, regardless to your own beliefs. That's one thing. Second thing is to live as if you only have this moment, because truly have this moment. There are no guarantees, whether in the peace or wartime, that this right now, what we are doing, this very moment is not the very last thing that I'm doing. When taking decisions, to ask three questions: is it good for me? Is it fulfilling me in whichever way? Then, is it good for others? And third, am I going to be proud if I do it?
Right.
And that
Is it
third
dignified and
question, I
honorable?
think, is yes, is it something that I will be proud of, or will be proud of myself for doing it? So if you can get these three out of the way, then just follow whatever you do. And the fourth, when you say when people are complaining, see, my problem is always the biggest problem in the universe, regardless
Right.
how little it is, because it's my problem. And this is the human nature. And it is not bad or good, but it's human nature. At any point of time in this world, there are thousands and millions of people who are doing much worse than I do, much worse. And there are thousands and millions of people who are doing much better than I do. And yet, whatever is going on in my life is the biggest thing. Put the dying children in Africa, put the tsunami happening over there. My problem is the biggest. Now, if I honor that and say, yes, this is mine, this, and I need to tend to that, and then say, you know what, it's not always about me. It is also about others. I may not be aware what is happening completely with somebody else's life, but at least I am aware that there's so many people going through much. At least it's going to do a little checks and balance, at least in the way I'm presenting something, or it's going to give me calmness, whatever, because you know what? There is somebody doing worse, there is somebody doing better. God bless the ones who are doing better. God help the ones who are, I will be okay.
Right. And those are some brilliant life lessons, because like you said, there are so many people who are doing much worse than us, and there's this there's this old saying that I was crying that I had no shoes till I met the man who had no feet. And I think that's where empathy actually is a huge life lesson for many to learn, because many have forgotten to be empathic. And I think that's what is leading to a lot of disgruntlement, to a lot of complaints and whining. There are some brilliant lessons that I have learned from your life story, which I want to articulate before we move forward. In my Mojo Inspirator self-help book, I've written this often, which is that all of us in the human race, around the world, no matter what color we are, whether we are brown, white, yellow, black, whatever, right, red, yeah, we are all bound by a invisible umbilical cord, right, which is the whole concept of oneness and unity and diversity and humanity, right. And the other life lesson that I've learned from you, which I want to articulate, is again, the Mojo Inspirator book series. The first book, which is the main learning, it's all life, leadership, and learning to learn lessons. And I start the book with the concept of being aware of your death. And it's actually a very Indian concept. And most people in India don't practice it now. And the reason that one has to be aware of death is because it teaches you your power of vulnerability. And this is the Mojo Inspirator book. And in India, in centuries ago, children were taught to pause 5 times a day and be aware that you will die one day. We don't practice it in India anymore, any part of the world, but one country used to still practice this till very recently, and some of them still practice it. And in this country, because children from the age of 7 are taught to pause 5 times a day and remember that you will die one day, this country, this teaching is directly correlated to their concept of happiness, because this country does not measure their success by GDP. This country measures their accomplishment by gross happiness index, and the country is called Bhutan. And of course, that practice is dying out now, because Bhutan is also slowly but surely getting globalized and commercialized. And the reason is that it teaches you that all you have is the now. We don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen tomorrow. Forget tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen in the next moment. I could wrap up this entire, session that I'm having with you, walk towards my door, and I could drop dead. So all you have is the moment, and that is a life lesson you learned at a very young age by witnessing and experiencing a war so closely, where you came from a life of comfort, a life of luxury, and overnight everything was gone. Like you said, from having everything,
I
you were reduced to having nothing, and you had to build your life way up from there. Yes, go ahead, Vesna.
I have a little saying here when it is it lost and or I'm
Your
gonna
internet
get
is
everything.
lagging a little.
No, I think
Your
that
inter
that have a two parts. Live each Can you hear me? My internet is unstable.
Yes, yeah,
Can you
yeah.
hear me?
You're back again. Yes, I can hear you and see
So
you now.
so
You were
I
talking about
feel
the
that
learning in
there
two
has to,
parts.
yes, in two parts, because lots of people understand that when you say that live each moment as if it's your last, to be reckless, to
Right.
say, okay, I'm going to get everything out of my
No, it's not
system.
about being reckless.
There has to be a second. It is like live each moment as if it's your last. However, leave it a possibility you may live next moment.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because
Plan for the
be,
best and prepare for the worst.
because that is when you're actually truly under. And then again, whatever you do, those three questions: is it good for me?
Right.
Is it
Good for everyone. Your internet is lagging a little.
good for others? And can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, but your internet is lagging a little.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you and see you again.
Just a second. Let me wait a minute.
you keep doing a Houdini on me in between because of the internet and the Wi-Fi, which is lagging. But yes,
Okay, no, I just changed. I just realized I think this should be a better connection.
right. I can see you
Let's see.
properly and hear you clearly now. So you were saying something
Awesome.
about the three questions. Is it good for me? Is
So,
it good for everyone?
and am I going to be proud? So
Yes,
that is the
absolutely.
best
Because
way to move forward in life.
absolutely, you need to have dignity and honor in whatever you are doing. And thank you for sharing those brilliant lessons with all of us, Vesna. Um, um, we have a very powerful oratory experience, as we call it. It's a event that we do for corporate gatherings, and it's called the Mojosh Magnificent Seven, again based on the Mojosh Inspirator book. And the concept is that in life, at some point in many, all of us get broken, because no one in the world, not a single human being in the world, no matter how rich you are, no matter how powerful you are, can you cannot escape from suffering, struggle, pain. So it's a part of our life. So it's
Oh,
pointless praying to have no pain or have no suffering, because it's going to happen. So embrace it, because it also helps you to sharpen your saw and become better and become more cutting edge. And the concept is that, in life, when we are broken, do we give up and break down, or do we persevere and break through? And I see that you have a very powerful breakthrough story over here. We should include you in the oratory experience also. So coming to
thank you.
books, Vesna, I started writing books because I wanted to share true stories of real heroes. My book series is called the Karmakari book series, where I tell true stories of real heroes. And from those true stories, we've now started our other self-help series, which is called the Mojosh Inspirator series, which is all
Mm.
about life, leadership, and learning to learn lessons. And the reason I was inspired to do this is because I felt, that the kids and the youth are getting misled with all false heroes, just movie stars or sports stars who may not be heroes at all. Because who are the people who are championing change and making a difference in the world? And I also felt that somebody needed to be a historian for all those ordinary people who are making an extraordinary difference in the world, but are ignored by most newspapers, magazines. So around 2003, when I started planning the Karmavir Awards, where we celebrate unsung
Mm.
heroes, there was no other award like that. Around 2010, when I started writing books of, books about real heroes, most newspapers and magazines didn't have any columns for, I'm talking about ordinary heroes. I'm not talking about movie
Mm.
stars or sports stars or celebrities, right? I'm talking about laborers who are making a difference in our world. A man who moves a mountain because he couldn't cross that mountain on time to take his wife to the
Right.
hospital. So he said, nobody else should die like my wife. So he moved an entire mountain with a hammer and a chisel. Or a domestic
Like
house
it
help
build
who's built a huge hospital to provide free healthcare. So those are the kind of stories that we write. And now I'm happy that, after we started that entire concept, many newspapers, many magazines are now having columns of real heroes. We also started a website called Dishum way back in 2004. And now, of course, you have many websites around the world which celebrate real heroes. So that was my inspiration. What I want to ask you is, what was your inspiration when you decided to start writing books? What inspired you that, you should get to penning a book and writing a book? Before we get more into your book, the two books, what is the inspiration behind it?
Oh, well, I always wanted to write a book because, as I said, I was an avid reader and I really wanted to write a book. And I've been journaling things since I was a kid. And I actually never thought what was going to be my first book. I mean, I never thought of it. I wrote two books actually so far, and I've been on to my third one, which is taking like years already. So I think it's a real one, but it was to help others in whichever way I could. So my first book was "Work It Out Without a Workout." It's actually this one,
Right, very nice.
and this was written because one thing that as a fitness professional and as I ended up doing a fitness professionally and not as just a passion, Because when I started realizing how many times people believe that they cannot do something with their body because doctors or the people around them told them they can't. I was
Right.
told I will never be able to walk again without a limp. I was told I will never be able to use my body the way I wanted to. I was told I will not be able to sit cross-legged or to run or to play sports or to even do recreational activity, and that I will always have disparity and the lack of range of motion. And and that's what got me onto this field, and I recovered and I was able to do everything which I wanted with the body. So that is when I took like a U-turn from political science and from a translator for US Army to actually onto the fitness field, because I was like, if I could have done this with my body, in spite of, there is a way for people to heal, there is a way for people to get better, and they should know that there is a hope. There can be a hope that if you just told something, that doesn't necessarily means the end. Now, after I came to India and started working with clients, and one of the most common things I've been hearing about why people are not getting fitter or are not able to exercise regularly, or what is the problem, it's like, I don't have time. I'm too busy. I have no time. So I was like, but that, it doesn't mean that you will get fit only if you spend 1 hour, hour and a half in the gym every day. Not everybody has that time. Not everybody has access. Not everybody. So that was actually my inspiration for the first book, because you can exercise anywhere, from in your car to at a party, at a wedding venue, in your home. You do not necessarily need to. So that is how my first book came out, and that is Worked Out Without a Workout. Next year, year after that, Nirbaya's case happened. And at that point of time, my daughter, she was just a few years old. And I mean, Nirbaya's case, it shook, I think, every person in the country and abroad, right? Because it was such a gruesome, inhuman sort of act of violence. And the dignity that girl had and kept on fighting for her life, and she showed even towards the last moment of her life, it was amazing. And as a mother of a girl child, and as a person, I have found myself twice in my life in situation which I haven't asked to be. And I got very, very lucky. I could have been raped. I could have been, it scarred me. I was molested. It scarred me to the point I kind of put myself in the shoes and I said, what can I do to contribute? How can I make a change apart from protesting, apart from writing awful things on the Facebook and urging people to take and report? It's like, is there something? And then I was like, yes, I already have the platform because I wrote this one book. Maybe there is something I can do through that. And I actually dedicated the book to Nirbhaya and to all Nirbhayas and all our daughters. And that was actually because I found this to be my little way to contribute. And and it is more about creating awareness. It was more about how can we recognize the signs, how, what options do we have as women when we find ourselves in a different situations. And unfortunately, so many years later, that is still a very relevant topic. And every single day, we keep hearing about the different acts of violence against women and children, unfortunately.
Right. And the Nirbhaya case did shake me up also a lot, because it was a gruesome way that they treated Jyoti Singh Pandey, the young girl whose
Mm.
life they snuffed out completely. So I'm very happy that you were completely moved by that incident to write a book to teach young girls, to teach women how they can defend themselves and protect themselves. But before we go into that, I would like you to share more about work it out without a workout, because what you spoke about, one of the biggest disease uh, burdens in this country are lifestyle diseases, especially in India, because of sedentary
Yes.
lifestyle. And like you said, most people, I'm a coach, I do corporate trainings, so I engage with people every day, even now, because of course I'm not going out anywhere. Earlier I should travel 6 days a week, but now I'm doing it mostly online. So I'm enjoying my home cooked food. But like you said, I always say that not having time is not an excuse. And you cannot say you don't have time, because you have all the time for cricket, you have all the time for all the nonsense in the world, but you don't exercise because you're used to a sedentary lifestyle. And I always tell them that you can do exercise anyway. Even if you're carrying a briefcase or a bag, you can use the bag as a dumbbell. You can walk whenever you get a chance, right? Because what research has shown you is that any kind of walking, any kind of movement for the body actually kind of keeps your body going, and makes you better and fitter. So can you share some tips for the benefit of our audience about how they can, have that workout without really working out?
Well, see, most of people think that, okay, it counts as a workout only if I go to the place where I can work out, and then I spend 1 hour, hour and a half doing that. And then I need to do that at least 3 times a week to make any relevant or impactful results. Now, that's not true. That's not necessarily true. New research is also showing that the sitting is the new smoking,
Right.
and that is what creates that inactivity. So the thing is that if you have each hour 3 minutes, 2 minutes of focused workout, which can be anything. It can be even if I'm here at the sofa and I just go and start doing a few tricep dips over here. My body doesn't know that I am not in the gym. My body doesn't know that I haven't dressed up to exercise. My body only recognizes the movement and everything counts. So if I manage every 1 hour, every 2 hours to do few minutes of exercising, first, I'm increasing the blood flow in my body. I'm
Absolutely.
improving
Absolutely.
my metabolism. I'm improving my concentration. It is going to benefit also my efficiency and efficacy in my working hours. Okay. And at the same time, body is like, yeah, I'm doing something. I'm getting benefits out of it. And because everything counts, at the end of the day, if you have spent few minutes every 2 hours, you actually have managed to do a workout. If you, or which counts to 20 or even 60 minutes, depending on how many times you stop. So if you stop thinking as a workout, okay, I need to dress the clothes and then I need to go here and I need to spend this amount of time, it's not always possible, not always feasible, not always doable, particularly now during the pandemics. However, if you say, I want to use any little break, or I want to create little breaks so I can do few minutes for myself, it's amazing how your body can respond and react. So and then I explored this theme a little further, which was more relevant to pre-pandemic times. I would go to a party and I would start doing some squats while at the party. I can still do that. Or I would do a few push-ups on the wall before while waiting for my car.
And
Or
what
if
what
I'm
what would what
traveling.
what would the other people at the party feel when you were doing squats?
Now, interestingly enough, I got okay, few laughs, of course. It's like, what the hell is she doing over there?
Right.
But a lot of people is like, wow, cool. I wouldn't have thought of it, but why not?
Why not? Absolutely. First they laugh you, then they join you. A lot of
Then
people
they
might, might,
join
might
you.
have thought you were high without any alcohol. So,
This is again, and I don't drink, so it's
yes.
literally true. But it's I've been doing also workshops in the offices, and I said you can take a break instead of going to take a smoke break, which is acceptable. Why don't you take exercise break?
Absolutely. I
So
completely agree
which
with
is
you.
actually healthy,
Absolutely.
so you take a chai break, so you can take exercise break. And everything gets, so there's so many possibilities where you can, like when I'm traveling, while I'm
Absolutely.
waiting for the plane, I will start doing some push-up or some going up and doing
Right.
few Surya Namaskars while I'm at it.
Right. You
On the
you can
plane,
just
on
you
the
can just do brisk walking anywhere, right? Which is actually absolutely, I mean, it's been proven that it's excellent for the blood circulation and for the metabolism.
brisk walking is excellent. However, as I say, sometimes you can't be walking up and down in the office, for instance. You cannot be, whenever you can, you should walk, obviously. However,
Absolutely.
if you can't, then you just need this amount of space. You can already,
Right.
if I start lifting my legs up and down, this is a great abdominal exercise. If I use a chair and start going through a middle little squat, leg exercise, I use my arms and I do tricep dips, my arms. So I don't necessarily even need to lay down a mat and lie down. Awesome if I can. But whenever it's not possible, you actually need a very small amount of space. And I can do this very discreetly, even if there are others not even to see me that I'm doing something, not that I mind. So that was actually how this whole concept of work it out without a workout, which was slightly misleading because people like, oh, she's gonna tell us how to get results without doing nothing.
Right.
And I
Right.
was like,
Right.
not really. This is how can you make every second minute count and actually benefit both visually and physically from it
Very
as well.
nice. For the longest time, there were some of these home shopping networks which used to sell something called the electronic jogger, where you just had to
Mhm.
rest your legs on them and it would move and it would exercise your body. So people probably thought you're going to give them some fancy gizmos like that. But I'm happy that you explained the concept. And I completely endorse what you're saying because it's the same thing that I do. Wherever I get a chance, I walk. I don't go to a gym. Wherever I get a chance, I'll do some squats, do some dips, etc. And I think it's the best way to stay fit. And I like this entire concept
Absolutely.
of workout breaks, health breaks,
Mm,
right? Just take some time to maintain your health, to sustain your health. And I think it's a great
absolutely.
concept. Is this all covered in your book, and can you read out a paragraph from this book before we go to the next book? A paragraph which would
So
give some insight to our audience about how they can work out without truly working out.
I'm just going to show you a little something here because
Yes.
I kind of even explored the concept and I started even back then wearing a pedometer and sport shoes with a sari.
Very
It's
nice.
like
Excellent.
so that no matter what outfit you're in, you should
Yes.
always be ready to kind of burst out and to move and to exercise.
Interestingly, a very
So,
dear friend of mine had started a Indian sportswear concept around
mhm.
5 years ago, where he kind of Indianized the entire concept of jogging suits, etc. But I'll tell you that offline. Yeah.
No, that is, I will just show you. This is how I looked when I had my injury.
Right. So
So I'm
that
not
was a
sure
question
if
I
you
want
can
to ask
see.
you. Wanted to ask you. Your doctors told you that you wouldn't be able to kind of continue without having a limb. So how did you overcome that?
What has happened was that after first surgery was unsuccessful,
Right.
and 6 months later, my knee was just kept on getting worse. I was on the emotional roller coaster. I gained around 35 kilos during that period of time. So I kind of bloated. I started smoking. I started drinking during that period of time because I was so devastated and emotionally unstable because I was like, I survived the war. I've been through so much hardship. And now instead of signing my first professional contract, look at me. The more I'm practicing, the more I'm trying, it's not coming together. It's actually going worse. And it didn't make sense to me because literally the more I was trying, my knee was going getting worse. While at the same time, from the moment I woken up after the first surgery, I felt something was off in my knee, that something was not right. It just didn't feel right. And I got the sway, then I was told absolutely no, you cannot be, this was a major surgery, a major injury. Of course, you're feeling something, but everything was done properly. So some months into all of that, then out of frustration, I started drinking, I started smoking because I wanted to, because my dreams crushed, no matter what I was doing wasn't working. So I tried to be as different as I could to my true self, because that was my way of coping with it. And then one fine day, I woken up in the morning feeling really bad about myself, because in the meantime, I had damages and injuries on my healthy leg because of the compensation, because of additional weight. I got bulging disc, I got cervical issues. I mean, it was ridiculous. And all of this is that I was, what, 19, 18, 19.
So
So
all your concerns were just compounding and getting more complex.
absolutely. And one morning I woken up really feeling awful about myself. Everything was hurting. I was coughing. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I couldn't recognize the person I was looking at. And that wasn't necessarily the weight, but it was, I just didn't see myself. And that was the first time I sat and I meditated. Back then, I didn't know that was meditation. And I literally asked, what am I doing? Well, where I'm going? Well, what's going to happen with me? And the little voice in my head told me that I could heal, that my body could get better, that that I could heal, that I could go back to my old self. And I came out of that space, and it was very, really overwhelming feeling.
And that must have been a turning point in your life, because you are actually moving from a victim mindset to a victor mindset.
Uh, Later on, I kind of put everything into perspective and into, at that point of time. See, there is another thing that I am also a healer. I'm a master Reiki healer. That is what I'm now. I'm also medium. And I'm coming from a family of women who always had a heightened senses. It is just has never been explored, talked about, because of the part of the world that
You
I
were
came
you
from.
were raised in,
Yes.
yes, yeah.
So I always had intuitiveness about myself. I never understood it and I never thought I had it. I was never aware of it. I always had connection to the spirit world without knowing it. I thought, I always knew if something was off, and I always thought everybody else could see and feel the things the same way I had. So I actually never was consciously aware of that. It took many years later to kind of, to have my aha moment, to realize that I always had it. But
Absolutely.
at
And
that point
that's
of,
what we learn in NLP, that the unconscious does not know anything negative. There is no in the unconscious. So your unconscious is always working positively. Yes.
yes. So the concept of pain and pleasure, pretty much. So that's why people cannot quit, and that's why the power of the words. But in my case, at that moment when I came out, I was like, okay, this was wishful thinking. This was like, yeah, of course I would love, but everybody's telling me I cannot. Everybody's telling me this is the end of it. Everybody's telling me, right. And then I was like, okay, Vesna, you have a choice. You have been miserable for this long and you know what this feels like. So you have a choice. Do you want to stay miserable or you want to try something else? What
True.
that else is, I do not know because I haven't been there. But if I don't like it, I can always go back and be miserable because that's not going anywhere.
Very true.
And I was like, you have a choice. Do you want to take that voice as true or not? Because that same voice was the one that told me that the moment I woken up from the surgery, that something was wrong with my knee. And I
Right.
said, that voice knew something that none of these doctors who spent so many years and they have so much more knowledge than I have, but that feeling I had, which they haven't. So I was like, okay, let's take it that it's true. What else? I have nothing to lose. I lost everything. I lost basketball. I lost my country. I lost all of that. I've been hungry. So I have nothing to lose. What else do I have to lose? So I kind of grabbed onto that and I said, okay, no expectations. I had no idea where I'm going to end. And I said, I'm going to explore this path one step at a time. I need to learn how can I get better. So let me start learning, let me start trying, let me start doing, because again, I have no expectations. I do not know where I'm heading. However, wherever I'm heading, it can't be worse than this. And if I don't like that, I always have that miserable self
Right.
waiting for me wherever. And that is how I actually
No,
started exploring and walking this path.
and it's absolutely, and I think that's a great life lesson, leadership lesson, and a lesson to learn for all of us that, and most of the world actually suffers from the victim mindset. And that is the reason they whine, they complain, they whimper so much. That you can take charge of your life. You have the healing power within you. You don't need anybody else. It's about you making up your mind and deciding to heal yourself, whether it's a physical healing or emotional or a mental healing. But the day you decide to do that is half the journey completed towards healing. And I think
And
that's a
the
great lesson
day
to
when
learn from
you
Vesna.
and the day when you accept that you are where you are, and
Absolutely.
because it was like, okay, yes, I am injured, and yes, my world has crashed, and yes, and so what? Some
And that
people
is
lost their
that
lives, and some
absolutely.
people lost their legs, and some people lost. So what? Shit, I'm pardon my French, but shit happens, and it happened to you this time around. Now,
Absolutely.
what you want to do with that? Do you want to live
Absolutely.
in it,
Absolutely.
or
Yeah.
you want to wash yourself up and start moving forward?
Yes. And that's
It
what the concept of the karma kari karishma book series is, that in life all of us are broken, but when broken, do we give up and break down, or do we pick up the threads,
I
persevere
like
and
your
break
term.
through?
I like your terminology better.
Yes, yeah, no, no, no. We've been doing this for many years as a oratory, like I said, and we should include you in the oratory because you've broken through, and we would now like to learn more from the book about how to stay healthy by working out without having a workout. You were to read a paragraph
Yes, I was. Well, one paragraph that is usually
and
mapped
show the
to
audience your book also.
the, this is
Yes.
the book, and this is the paragraph, and it says here, priority, map to get going. A journey of 1,000 miles begin with a single step. Lao Tzu. Opening up your mind to the possibility of getting fitter can be simple and easy if treated as a process. Assume that you need to reach some place and only have the address. You know where you want to go, but have no idea about directions. If you try to get there unthinkingly, you'll waste time and perhaps get lost on the way. On the contrary, having a clear instruction and the map will save time and help you reach the destination easily. I'll help you draw your daily map with all the necessary tools to make you reach your destination in the shortest possible time. In the beginning, you'll have to stick to your map and use it frequently for reference. As you progress, you'll become more familiar with your routine and will no longer need the map. We'll first work on establishing patterns and then try making it a habit. You'll discover a new you, and fitness will become as natural as breathing. So, this is a thing that lots of people say, oh, yeah, but how will I have never time? So, when you start putting things on paper and when you kind of draw what is your day like, you can actually identify when you have these little loops that you can spend and do the time and do some workout. You can put the schedule timetable. You can set alarms to remind you. You can predetermine when you're going to use this time. And I find this kind of useful because to me, I do not need this. Whenever I see opportunity, it always gets into the same. And again, I also have additional advantage because I do work in this field. So for me, it's also easier. Now, given the pandemics, none of us is wearing the suits and dresses and stuff that we did. So I find that everybody is much more appropriately dressed to break into exercise any point of time, thanks to pandemics. So it is just on mapping your day, seeing the opportunities, and actually reminding yourself to do them.
Absolutely.
And over a period of time, what that happens is that you no longer need a reminder. It's gonna, the same way I'm gonna hydrate, the same
Right.
way I'm gonna treat
It,
my
it it
workout
it
as
becomes
well.
second nature. It becomes a habit. Then you don't need to put it on paper because you know that your body is asking you to kind of go, just rise and do a workout.
Yes, and the thing is, the second is working with your priorities.
Right.
As you rightly said earlier, that people say, I don't have time, and yet they watch Netflix, and yet they watch soap operas, and yet they're doing all. It's not that they don't, we all have the same amount of time, but their priorities are different than
Right.
somebody else's.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
So
that's what I always tell people when they ask me to do a time management course. That how will you manage your time when you don't know what you need to give your time to? So you can only prioritize your time when you know what your priorities are. Absolutely right.
absolutely. And I think that is another thing that we need to map our day to set our priorities, right? To say, okay, fitness is not such a priority that I dedicated 1 hour in a bunch. However, health is a priority enough to me that I dedicate 3 minutes every hour and a half. So you sort of put yourself in perspective to say, okay, it's not that high because again, people who have sorted it out in their head, they don't need this book because they're
Absolutely.
already doing that 1 hour. All
Excellent.
right.
Great.
However, everybody else who thinks that, okay, I do not have 1 hour a day. However, health is important to me. My back health is important to me. I'm going to dedicate 3 minutes every hour and a half of my working hours, even. And then you can do little stretches morning, little stretches evening, and you're done, which you combine with meditation. So that way you're doing my full movement. So tick, tick, tick.
Excellent. Thank you, Vesna. Thank you for that. You know, there's something else which I wanted to ask you and pick your brains on, which is that you have now built a business as a spiritual entrepreneur, person who's teaching people fitness, and you built a successful business on that. So how did you go about building that business? That this is a learning for people who want to get into this field, and also share with us what is the concept of the functional applied sciences which you specialize in. Please share that with the audience for their learning and insight.
Um, Fitness became my business and my profession by a chance, literally by a chance. It grew organically. I came to India and I already knew that I wanted to make transition. I just didn't know how. And it literally started by me practicing in the gym. Back then, that was in Hotel Samrat. So it was 2004, so long time ago. And the people around, our friends, started asking, hey, what is that? That is looking very interesting. And I was like, this is Pilates. And that is how I kind of started connecting with my body through Pilates.
With
Later
Pilates, yeah.
on, functional applied science kind of added to it later on again, or kind of grew into it organically. And a few of our friends started asking, that looks very interesting. Can you teach us that? And I said, sure, I'm here. Why not? And literally, I started like that. They loved my approach. They loved the results they were getting. And within 6 months, I had the full schedule. And soon after, I started looking at getting into it more seriously. And the friend was, hey, I have a place, and we were thinking of adding some fitness to it. That was in Asian Roots with Annie. And she said, would you like to open a studio here? I was like, sure, I was already thinking about it. And at the same time, I started writing for a newspaper. I had a column in Hindustan Times. Few people kind of started reading that column. They liked it. That got me more writing assignments. So it was literally sort of, it went from one into another. And then in 2008, our daughter was born. And that year, I started exploring a spirituality in more meaningful sense. And I was like, you know what? I discovered my spirituality and I connected it to the body because my spirituality led me to healing my body. And I started exploring NLP. I also got certified. I'm a teacher of a clinical hypnotherapy. So I got all 3 levels and then past life regression and the whole gamut, and then went into the teaching course as well, exploring the mind, the power of mind, how our subconsciousness works. Got more serious with healing and Reiki, and I kept it kind of separate, right? Because to me, again, where I'm coming from, either you're a professional, whichever field that might be, or you are into the alternative methods, which are the healings and the naturopathy and all of that, and they do not necessarily mix. However, whenever I would not mix them, it always would feel as if something was missing. So in all of that process, I got a kind of a call that I should go on pilgrimage. So I walked 900 kilometers at Santiago de Compostela. I walked the St. James Path in Spain because I got a call that I needed to go through that. So during that pilgrimage, I had lots of revelations and lots of messages which kind of guided me that one is not separate from another. The spiritual is not separate from intellectual. Intellectual is not separate from emotional, and none of that is separate from physical. So that has been then that
It's all inside
transformation.
out.
Everything is inside out. And then
Absolutely.
through all of that, I was introduced before that to the functional applied science, which is the principle which is guiding how the body reacts as a whole unit, not a bunch of parts. How each part of the body has direction, order, and speed of movement, and how everything affects another. And the movement is always connecting to the and responding to gravitational force and to our intention. And during the course, it kind of clicked that not only we need this understanding of the alignment and the cause and effects within the body, but that same principle applies to our emotional state, to our spiritual state, to our intellectual state. So I was like, you know what? We need to learn the fundamentals, not only in our movement and the order in which what is moving, but also how to align that. And those same principles we need to learn intellectually, we need to learn emotional, we need to learn spiritual, because everything has order, everything has fundamentals, and everything connects and correlates to another. And that is what I call a concept of a holistic wellness, that we are finding that balance and alignment between everything
Absolutely.
inside and the way that manifests outside.
Absolutely. It's what we call in our Mojosh Inspirator book as the 5 intelligences: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and moral intelligence. You spoke about intention. It's about having the right positive and the righteous intentions. And when you balance this, you become holistically healthy.
Absolutely. And to me, I do that through movement.
Absolutely.
So
Very
to
nice.
me, the body is the vessel, the body is my focus. But in order for body to manifest we need to be able to clean and clear all the other obstacles and realign all the other stuff that's happening behind the curtain, right?
Very true. And finally, Vesna, thank you for all the insights and the life leadership and learning to learn lessons that you're sharing with everybody who's listening in. Uh, tell us more about the book. Maybe read a paragraph from Fit to Fight so that the young girls and women who are watching can get some concepts about how they can defend themselves against people who are predators, molesters, rapists. You said you experienced molestation yourself, and there are several people out there. It's happening at the workplace also now. So how can they really defend
Absolutely.
themselves? Yeah.
Well, see, getting into self-defense part of the whole thing is something that ultimately we're trying to avoid, and it should be practiced only to because a lot of people say, oh, somebody attacks me and I'm going to kick somebody's butt. It's not about that. It's actually, you're standing much better chances if you sort of preempt and kind of avoid the situation altogether, and you resort to defending yourself only as a last resort, and when you have no other option left, and even then you have to go with intention to hurt and harm, because that is the only chance that is giving you a window to get away. So that is something that should, but uh, preempt, prepare, and avoid. So there are many myths and misconceptions about self-defense. A common one is that you can successfully defend yourself only if you're a martial arts specialist who has spent many years practicing various techniques and grips. Another one is that women are too weak to defend themselves. And yet another is that self-defense refers only to the physical aspect of defending your life. I have to admit that I went for self-defense classes with the aim to learn how to kick some butt. My opinion being that if someone attacks you, he deserves to get hurt, right? Well, the philosopher of true self-defense is far from all of this. Yes, it will teach you techniques to defend yourself, even if you're not a martial arts specialist, but it will also teach you something much deeper and more pragmatic. It will focus on steps before any physical attack happens. The perfect self-defense preempts things so far ahead. This ideally the situation where you need to defend yourself doesn't arise at all. So this is about, for instance, many times you're going somewhere. Where you're going to park the car matters. Which way your car is going to turn matters. How are you, what time will you be getting back to your car? How will you be getting to that car? Will you be with someone alone? In what condition will you be getting to that car? Okay, if you're drinking, you should not be driving, but that's a whole different matter, right?
In what condition will you be getting back to the car? I like that.
it
Vesna, you're giving people the wrong ideas now.
no, but it can be. Let's
I'm
say
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I go out, let's say that a condition does not necessarily mean are you going to be high? Are you going to be drunk? Are you going? You might be stressed. You might be tired.
Absolutely.
It might be
Absolutely.
late. You might be
Absolutely.
overworked. You might be under. So, will your mind be at the right focus point?
Focus towards driving only.
Not only driving, but getting into the car. Because where the most attacks happen, they happen as you're going to the house, to the car, when you're actually commuting from the passing through the park, where you're actually commuting and your focus is elsewhere rather looking around.
Right, because you're not alert.
Exactly. So this is kind of teaching you how to preempt these steps, that if I know that by the end of that day or night, or if I'm going to park in the day, but I will get back to my vehicle or my home only at night, Where should I park the car? I should park it somewhere where there is a light, where it's a close, so I don't need to go through are there any bushes around? What is the situation? How many people are there at night?
Right.
Is it well commuted? And if it's not, that means that I should have my key ready. I should have my phone ready so I can call someone. So it is kind of just teaching you how to be ready and preempt any possible and think of any possible situation. I
Absolutely.
got some
You have to have your senses on high alert.
I got from somebody, oh, that means being paranoid. That doesn't mean paranoid. It just means like a military mind that I am getting into unknown. And rather than being jumped, I would much rather have my senses be aware of my environment and have classification system with green, orange, red,
Right.
or a
Very
green,
nice.
orange, yellow, red. So, which means that green, all clear, I can switch off, I can go back to my music,
Great.
right? Orange, something might be possible, but I don't need to. Yellow, okay, something might be happening. Red situation is that you need to action, either running or a confrontation or plan B, which should you already have ready. So ideally, ideally that should be installed in everyone so that the confrontation part of any sort is the last resort. Now once it gets there, then the whole different rules apply. Then it's
Very
all or
nice.
nothing.
Thank you. And I would urge all our viewers to please go and get those books, Fit to Fight and Work It Out Without a Workout. They are available on Amazon and at all leading
Thank you.
bookstores. Thank you, Vesna, for all those brilliant lessons on self-defense. Self-defense is not just about knowing martial arts, but it's also about having mental presence and being mentally alert, emotionally alert. So thank you so much for sharing all those thoughts and insights. And finally, one last question. What does your husband Anurag do and what is your daughter's name?
My daughter's name is Daniela Zara.
Okay.
She's 13 years old now.
All
My
right.
husband Anurag, he's a full-time now involved with now our business. And that is a transition that he made consciously over the years, supporting me, and that gave us opportunity to spend more time together, because otherwise it would have been hardly seeing each other. So he's full time, my backbone, and everything logistically. He does all of the background work of running our centers. He does, and then while at the same time, he's also fully now trained also to handle the clients as well.
Excellent. So great, great. I'm very happy to know that you're not only life partners but also partners in the business. So great. Keep expanding and
Absolutely.
growing the business. Thank you so much, Vesna. Uh, Great conversing with you and having a nice, cool conversation, like we call it, and learning more about how to stay healthy, how to stay healthy in all the five intelligences that we talk about: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and moral. And thank you for all those great life lessons that you
Thank
shared
you
with us and for
so
sharing your
much.
life story so candidly with us. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for having me. And finally, we meet. I mean, we know
Absolutely.
each
Even
other
even
for
though it's
so
on Zoom,
long.
we've met, and like I said, no strangers, you're only friends we've never met. But we would love to include you in
Absolutely.
the Magnificent Seven talks also, because
I
we
would
are,
be
after
honored.
doing it in the corporate sector for 7 years, we've dazzled over or rather inspired over 3 million people. But now we are planning to have live public events, hybrid events, which are a
Would
mix of offline and online. So we
would
would
be
love to have you
honored
on. Yeah.
to be part of it.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Vesna. Thank you. And
Thank you so
my
much.
regards to Daniela and Anurag. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Good
Good
night. Have a
night.
great evening. See you. Bye
You
bye.
too. Bye.